Rumor has it that other taxes are supposed to be going up when the budget comes, to be able to pay for all of the massive wasteful spending that they've been doing. So, man, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, yes, I forgot about the bombing that happened on April 1st. Chatham House says the strike on Iran's consulate in Syria could be the spark that ignites the Middle East. Israel's attack signaled a shift in its strategy towards Iran. Tehran's response and the U.S.'s promise of ironclad support for Israel risks escalation of this transnational conflict. That's bad. I'm really hoping that this is wrong. I mean, not wrong in its analysis, because I think it's correct in its analysis, but it's not great that Israel's attacking Iran and people are saying, people might get angry about this. And now that people are angry about this and Iran has responded to this attack by directly attacking Israel, Israel's saying, we're going to attack Iran with the full, power of our ability, right? And I mean, that's not great. The article goes into a little bit more. I'll read the first paragraph here. It says, the suspected Israeli attack on Iran's consulate in Damascus on 1st of April marks an unprecedented escalation by Israel against Iran in Syria. The killing of Iran's top soldier, Brigadier General Mohammad Zahidi, I'm getting that terribly wrong, I'm sorry, among other Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, commanders, is the clearest signal yet of Israel's determination to shift the conflict's rules of engagement, moving beyond simply preventing arms supplies to Hezbollah or pushing Iranian-backed groups away from its border to directly eliminating Iranian leadership in Syria. So Israel changes tactics, and all of a sudden, the war goes hot. And I think this serves a broader goal, and the broader goal will be plain by the end of this series of tabs. It has to do with central bank digital currency. It has to do with collapse of the American US dollar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the broader NWO goal, right? So while this looks bad, maybe bad for Israel, getting into a hot war with Hezbollah is not great, but I mean, maybe not so bad if you've got Biden and the US in your back pocket, and that derails the US 24 election, right? So they're making calculated guesses, and they're moving their pieces on the board. Does that make sense? Going Underground says, we're witnessing a show of hypocrisy. It's embarrassing to watch. Russia slams the United States and its Western allies for not condemning Israel's bombing of Iran's embassy in Damascus, but condemning Iran for retaliating. Okay, so yeah, I definitely missed this, and it's a really important aspect. And I was saying that there must be some kind of inciting event. This can't be out of nowhere. Robert says, Iran fires more than 300 drones and missiles at Israel, virtually all intercepted. During the kitchen table talk yesterday, it was really fun. We had 15 minutes of talking about Iran beforehand, and I think Noah was concerned about me. I'm okay. But the idea that that there's something hinky about all these wars. Like we were shown all sorts of footage of the Ukrainian war when it popped off, right? And then it turned out there was video games and all sorts of misleading stuff. And then the Russian war, there's all sorts of misleading things, or maybe it was the Russian war that had the video games. But the more modern ones have had less footage, and then you get certain things here and there leaking out, but it's certainly much less than what happened in the 1990s with Desert Storm, where you had people, they were selling that war hard, man, right? Like you had people on the ground embedded and all sorts of reporters and all sorts of crazy stuff, and then Iran fires 300 drones, and then a couple of minutes later you find out that it's going to be 24 hours before they get there, and so there's all sorts of really interesting things, and here virtually all are intercepted. I'm lucky, right? Whew. So this attack that, I think that they did have some missiles that hit some air bases to deal with reducing their ability to fly planes or take off planes or something to that effect. But I don't know that there's been any widespread casualties or anything like that from Iran's attack on Israel. Right Blend says, do you support Israel launching a significant counterattack against Iran that would create a regional war and quite possibly trigger a world war, despite the fact that 99% of Iran's missiles and drones were intercepted with little damage to Israel? And Sean says, would you accept someone attacking your home in the middle of the night? Right Blend says, if you're asking me directly, I think it's far more complicated than comparing it to a home invasion in the middle of the night. The fact is 99% of the incoming attack was destroyed, and damage appears to be very minor. Israel also attacked an Iranian embassy a short time ago, so to many people, the Iranian attack is not viewed as strictly unprovoked, which would have given Israel a much stronger cause casus belli to retaliate. This could be one of the many reasons the U.S. is urging Israel to be measured and not pledging offensive support. Is all that worth a regional and world war to you? In a world war, situations escalate extraordinarily quickly and outcomes are unpredictable. There could very well be mass destruction even here in Canada. Is that worth it for yesterday's Iranian attack? So, good question. Great question. I think that frames things perfectly. This was sent out 20 hours ago. Mensch Osint says Israel is said to retaliate in the next 48 hours. So we're down to 28 hours left if this tweet is correct to the hour. But there's a lot of color there. There's a lot of pushing and pulling. There's a lot of things that need to be taken into account, including the goals of the NWO, one world order, one currency, et cetera, and Shadow of Ezra shines light on it this way. Why the next 48 hours could be the most important of your lifetime. If Israel is to launch an attack on Iran, triggering an escalation, the price of oil will surge. That would be bad. Okay, that would be bad. Iran will retaliate by blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Such a conflict could spell the end of the petrodollar. That might be overstating it. Potentially replaced by a central bank digital currency. That makes sense. As hinted by plans already in motion. SWIFT's recent announcement made in March outlines intentions to establish a platform within the next 1 or 2 years, facilitating connections between the emerging wave of central bank digital currencies and the current financial system. Problem, reaction, solution. Plausible. 100% plausible if you ask me. And you need an event to move people from the dollar that you know and love to the new central bank digital currency that you don't trust yet, right? But you kind of use anyway because everybody's using Interac and debit and all the rest of these systems that take your money and digitize it. So, Maxime Bernier, it's not the same, but it's kind of the same. Interac is trying to get in on social credit scores and being on the ground floor of the digital ID and the digital currency. They're trying to, that's good business sense, right? Like that's where it's going. So they're trying to get on the ground floor of it, and they've already created things that are connected with Rogers, and I think Rogers is connected with Google. Google sent the Face Unlock email the other day with biometrics, right? All your banks are biometrics now. You have to opt out of it. I opt out at every call. Every call I hear your voice may be used to validate your whatever, and I tell them you can't do no. Take that off. And it's not, they said, no, it's not on. It's just a warning that if you bank with us, this may happen. And I said, okay, but it's not on my account because it can't be, right? Because my voice is everywhere, right? So anybody could use this and train an AI, right? But it's wild that they want biometrics to replace passwords and confirmations and all sorts of other stuff. So anyway, I find it very, very interesting. Ground floor stuff. This is the dawning of a switchover that they're pushing. And it's I don't know that it's not going to happen. There are places that are pushing back, but 25 years, right? People are going to get lazy and just kind of go with it. Maxime Bernier is talking about Israel and Iran, and he says, we have no business getting involved in the conflict in the Middle East. And that's it, right? That's the point. That's 100% the point. This is a war, their war, not our war. We should stop funding it, period. We should fund farmers, not wars. Maybe that's the title. Hold on. While we're funding farmers, we should also abolish the dairy cartel. We should open up the dairy industry to exporting and importing and competition and get your own cow. And, everybody should be making food, and we shouldn't be taxing food either, now that I come to think of it. Okay, let's talk about housing, because Chrystia Freeland wants to give you a loan. I feel like offering a loan when we've been just handing out money like drunken sailors for wars across the Middle East and everywhere else, right? I think that's really poor, right? Here, Ukraine, here, Israel, here, Hamas, here, everybody else, right? Here's war-making weapons and money to fund your wars, and we'll buy some weapons from the United States to quickly get you weapons which still haven't been delivered. But that's bygones, never mind, right? The money is there. Everybody's throwing money at this. But to you and me, who are struggling because of bad policies that these idiots have put into place, we get loans? Really, Chrystia Freeland? Yes, really. She says many Canadians, such as retirees who own their homes or younger families who want their parents to move in, might want to add a unit to their home. So we're going to offer low interest rate loans of up to $40,000 to make it easier to add a secondary unit, right? So this fourplex thing isn't going off too well. So maybe they'll build the fourplexes if they can house their family in them, right? And I say free money for Ukraine, free money for Hamas, free money for illegal border jumpers, free money for refugees. Canadians get predatory loans while non-citizens get free money with no strings. You're traitors and you belong in prison. Any government that comes to you with the offer of a low interest rate loan while handing out free money to other countries for wars, those people are not your friends. Those people are not looking out for your best interests. Those people are looking to make more money off of you. They'll take your money and invest it in an NGO that's trafficking children through Texas, maybe, right? Been paying attention to that storyline yet? I think I mentioned it yesterday. Dr. Mike Moffat says, thread time. This is old data from 2018, but if you want to know why housing is so expensive, a huge part of it is taxes. We tax housing construction like we tax cigarettes, and we wonder why we're getting less of it. I feel like, this is a quick aside on cigarettes, if you didn't soak cigarettes in like formaldehyde and a whole bunch of other poisons and things like that, if you didn't smoke the tobacco or put the tobacco in baths of these chemicals and things like that so that the tobacco absorbed it, and then you put it in the cigarettes, if we just had straight tobacco, I feel like it wouldn't be nearly as problematic as it was when big push to stop smoking. When I was growing up, everybody smoked, right? And the taxes on cigarettes, a pack of smokes was like $3, right? Imperial Tobacco was making $2.50. The taxes were pretty low, and everybody was pretty happy. Everybody liked smoking, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like something was done to the cigarettes in order to spur on this cancer stuff. And when the cigarettes are giving you cancer, that's bad. But when another product is giving you cancer, nobody's mentioning it. Weird, right? Just strange. Anyway, we tax cigarettes now. It's $9. I remember when I was a smoker. When I started smoking, a pack was like $7.10. I think it was $7.10. When I ended smoking, it was like $10.85, going on $11. And I didn't even quit smoking because it was too expensive, because I didn't smoke that much that it was so expensive. But I quit for health reasons. But I thought, who would start smoking now? It's $10 a pack. It's crazy. And part of the argument is healthcare costs more for smokers. But right? They'll give you something else that causes cancer, and nobody says a darn word about that. Is it just a faster acting cancer, right? The smoking didn't kill us fast enough, maybe? Speculation. Okay, here is the taxes that have to be paid for all sorts of different homes. Okay, in Oakville, on a $1.2 million home, that's the cost of the average new price of a detached home. You're paying $232,000 in tax, right? Holy. That's crazy. In Brampton, at a $655,000 home, you're still paying $192,000 in taxes. The lowest one on a $570,000 home is in the town of West Gwillimbury. I'm getting that terribly wrong. $119,000, $120,000, $119,999. Okay, so wild. Absolutely incredible. We're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. Poof, that money doesn't exist, and then poof, it exists because the municipality wants those taxes, please, right? That's on a new construction, but wowzers. Okay. This article argues that supply is how you fix this problem partially. It's not. We do not have the supply, and we cannot build the supply. It will not happen. It cannot happen. We don't have the talent. We don't have the resources, labor. We don't have the resources, the actual materials. We cannot do this. It is irresponsible for the news media and everybody else to say that it's even in the realm of possibility. It's in the realm of possibility only mathematically. If you actually look at it logistically and practically, not a chance. You can't double the house. You can't double construction of housing in Canada. You can't. Unless you redefine what housing is, which they're trying to do. So if you build retirement home with 300 rooms that are semi-private, you've made 600 houses. You see how they're going to juice the numbers? It's not going to solve the problem, but it'll seem like they're, addressing the issue. Oh, well, they said they were going to make 4 million homes and they've made 2 million homes, but they're all retirement homes, right? Or hospital beds or something to that effect that also count as homes, right? So it's crazy, but they can't do it. It's not possible. We're going to go through a thread that talks about how they can't do it, but here's the news media talking about how this is what we're going to do. There are multiple things we need to do to reduce prices, and more supply is one of them, said Kershaw. But funding announcements for building projects are a way to organize our concern about the housing system so that we don't have to look in the mirror, particularly homeowners who have been homeowners for a long time, and say, How are we entangled? He said the current system incentivizes extracting profits from real estate rather than prioritizing that everyone has access to affordable shelter. Very communist, right? On the face of it, the lack of affordable housing seems like an issue of supply. Just build more to meet demand and prices will come down. But part of the problem is the source of that demand. Oh, are they going to address this issue? No, they're not. It is increasingly investors, they say. So the investors, those are the problems. Those evil investors, right? Here is this thread talking about how we cannot double our building. It's not going to happen. Naya says, hate to blow a hole in Sean Fraser's housing fantasy, but they make it so easy. Here's the government plan to build 4 million homes in 7 years. So there's a link. Within it is mostly things that the government can try to do. They can throw money at it, try to remove bureaucracy, and then throw more money at it. It's the Trudeau spaghetti strategy. Throw everything at the wall and hopefully something sticks. However, the CMHC says that Canada needs to actually build 6 million homes by 2030, which is 2 million more than the Trudeau government fantasy prediction, and a year before they actually said that they would get to it. And here's the CMHC article from June 2022. Naya continues, Canada normally builds about 225,000 homes each year, and that's housing units each year. This is plus or minus the maximum production yield of the total construction industry. There's no proof home builders sitting at home without work who can fulfill Trudeau's government fantasies. And things are going to get worse. Ontario's construction industry faces a severe labor crunch, and it seems it's about to get worse. Across Canada, the share of construction workers over age 55 is now at a record high. So that's not good. If you can do math and understand that they're going to be retiring soon and they're not going to have a group of people underneath to take over, right? It's estimated that about almost 20% of workers in construction will retire over the next decade. Build Force Canada estimates that to fulfill the Trudeau government's housing fantasy, at least 500,000 more on-site construction workers are needed. The construction industry needs to grow by 83% immediately. This is a fantasy. The construction industry has already seen significant growth in employment, but it is 80,000 people short of current requirements. To become a Red Seal electrician requires almost 5 years of schooling and on-site job training. Carpenters, plumbers, etc., are no different. So these are apprenticeship programs, and you don't want the electrician who's the brand new electrician on the brand new 1-year program to do your house wiring. You're like, what happened to that row of housing? Oh, we got a brand new electrician to wire them and they went up in flames. Electrical fire, right? Like, oh, shucks, right? All that money down the drain. You don't want that, right? Like, there's a reason for that. It's probably a good reason, right? Like, continuing on with Naya's thread, construction is dominated by men, and if we look at the entirety of unemployed young men 15 to 44, it only equals about 550,000 people in all of Canada. They aren't going into construction. People entering into construction trade are also falling, the number, yet employment within construction is at an all-time high. The point of all of this is to say the government knows all of this. Of course the government knows all of this. They're hoping to goodness that you don't know all of this, and they'll silence anybody who tries to tell you, like me. The construction industry is too small to build what is needed, and the changes required to grow the construction industry by at least 85% is an impossibility in 6 to 7 years. The Trudeau housing plan is pure BS. Yet the Trudeau government has no issue getting in front of every and any microphone and straight up lying to you. Every media and elitist weasel who trumpets the government talking points is also complicit. They will say anything, do anything, and spend anything to stay in power. Yeah, and that's what this article is fundamentally about. They're lying to you, and they know they're lying to you, and they don't care. Here's the shadow minister for immigration. I saw a different clip with Andrew Lawton and him on stage yesterday or 2 days ago. It was during the conference, and they have a broader conversation about it. And sometimes I tag my tags and my links, and they don't come through. Like, for whatever reason, it just doesn't save. I don't know. I think it's probably a user error because most of them save. But sometimes it doesn't happen. And so I think it got lost into that abyss. And I was looking for it today and I couldn't find it. So apologies about that. But here they're talking about the immigration numbers, and the minister says, well, they'll be what they're going to be. They'll land where they land, and we'll do what we could do with all those immigrations numbers. Here we go.
But to be direct about that, do you think that number is going to have to be lower than what it is right now?
It'll be whatever it comes out to, that will be the number. If it's lower, it's lower. If it's higher, it's higher. But
to be direct about that, do you...
Right? So CPC wants to increase immigration, confirmed. Ridiculous. Here's Chrystia Freeland talking about the power of Canada over the backdrop of 10 cities that Trudeau has overseen because he is allowing this economic ruin to destroy our country and continuing the policies that are making it possible.
We're delivering on a particularly Canadian pillar of our country's long-term prosperity: immigration. At a moment when an aging population is one of the greatest challenges facing the developed Western world, when our economies are all desperate for skilled workers, Canada's unique enthusiasm for welcoming new Canadians not only makes our communities more vibrant, it is also an international economic competitive advantage. And sorry to the non-Canadians who are here, this is part of Canada's secret sauce economically. We're delivering on...
It is the secret sauce. Yes. The ice huts are the secret sauce for surviving in a tent in a Canadian winter in Alberta. Give me a break. Give me a break. Here is the impact of these policies, monetary. This is the United States, but we've got Pierre Poilievre talking about detonation as well. This McDonald's thing is like a dipstick, right? Like you check your oil, you dip a stick into the oil and you look at the oil, and if it looks good, you're like, all right, I don't need to change my oil, and you put things back. This is a dipstick into the cost of fast food, right? And when you pull it out and it doesn't look like oil anymore. It looks like white lard or something like that. Or I don't even know what broken down oil looks like. It smells wrong. I'm not sure. If it doesn't look good, you got to change the oil. You got to do something different. This doesn't look good. Here we go.
I just went into this McDonald's here where a Big Mac meal cost $11.79 before taxes and is now at a price where people simply can't afford to come to McDonald's anymore. With McDonald's CEO now reporting that those making less than $45,000 a year have stopped coming to the store. After all, the price of a Big Mac across America, it's gone up by 280% over the last 2 decades, with the most expensive Big Macs occurring here in states like New York as well as in Connecticut, where there's an $18 Big Mac meal in Southwest Connecticut. As I think a lot of us grew up going to McDonald's with much more affordable prices. Back in the 1990s, a Big Mac meal cost less than $3, everyone. If you take a look at this advertisement from a mid-1990s McDonald's, you could get a Big Mac meal for less than $3. You can get chicken nuggets for less than $2. And even back in the mid-2000s, McDonald's had the dollar menu, where you could order a whole bunch of stuff for $1. That's also gone now as well.
And this crazy fast food inflation is going to have far-reaching implications on the U.S. economy in 2024 and beyond, because it's a signal of how Americans can no longer afford the basics.
So there you go. I think that's happening here as well. I don't know that we have an $18 Big Mac deal, but I'm sure that I know that the prices of fast food has increased a lot. I always eat kids' meals because that's all the calories I need, really. When you get fries and like a burger with a kids' meal, man, it's great. Or like, a burrito and fries or tortilla chips. What do you need more? Like, I don't need very much at lunchtime. So I artificially pay less, but now kids' meals are what like lunch meals used to be for adults, right? So it's weird. It's weird, I'm telling you. Here is Pierre Poilievre talking about detonation. This is part 2 of a series. So I find it notable that the Liberals are putting out minute-long hit pieces on Poilievre, and the Conservatives are doing 15-minute-long documentary-style explainer pieces to educate their audience. Very interesting. There's a big difference, right? Here we go.
Welcome back to Detonation. In episode 1 of Detonation, we learned that Canada's economy is more indebted than were many of the countries that suffered the worst debt crises of the last century, and how those crises caused massive human suffering. We learned the 4 indicators of a forthcoming debt crisis. 1. Sustained debt buildup, especially household debt. 2. Asset price inflation. 3. Falling output. And 4. Large current account deficits. Have these things happened in Canada? This is Detonation, Episode 2, Large Debt Buildups.
So I'll leave it there. Link is in the description. It's 18 minutes. We can't watch all of it. But yes, those things have happened in Canada very, very rapidly. And so what's going to happen? Hopefully nothing with Israel and Iran. CBC says economists say they're expecting the federal government to raise taxes in Tuesday's budget to help offset billions of dollars in new spending already promised in the pre-budget announcements that have been landing almost daily since the end of March. They're campaigning, right, on these new policies. But it's more spending, right? We can't afford this. Do you want to pay more taxes for these garbage programs that the Liberals want to implement? No thanks. No thanks. And they're trying to catch up with paying for spending they've already committed to. Here's Police on Guard for me to underline the wasteful spending that they did during COVID, because it's important. Here's Police on Guard. It says, in a 2-year period, our federal government spent $199 million enforcing COVID-19 vaccination mandates on the core public administration alone, federal employees and RCMP. The totals for each year were $85.7 and $112.9 million, respectively. To offer some perspective, the federal government directly employs approximately 268,000 individuals, 95% of whom had declared themselves fully vaccinated, 2 primary shots. According to the Treasury Board, about 3,400 declared themselves to be unvaccinated. It is assumed that this also includes those who refused to declare either way, and 2,560 were not sent home or were sent home on leave without pay as a result, effective November 15, 2021. Most of these individuals were then invited back many months later as though nothing had happened at all. It should be acknowledged that the federal service encompasses many agencies. However, the rate of dismissal instead of leave without pay for noncompliance with vaccine mandates was disproportionately applied against specific groups such as the CAF and RCMP, so Armed Forces and Police. Once all other costs are accounted for, the reminder, according to the Epoch Times, works out to $24,000 per employee just for rapid testing. Likely a very low estimate, given that these agencies did not employ rapid testing at all. Matthew Horwood, Epoch Times, jokingly or not, asks if these test kits were made by SNC-Lavalin. Even more likely is that they suffered the same ludicrous accounting oversights as the creation of the ArriveCan app. Right, the waste of tax dollars. Part of why it's wasteful is we pay for the money being pulled out over a long period of time, but the money to GC Strategies, poof, just like the tax dollars to a municipality, poof, it's right there, created right away. So that $150,000, $200,000 that you and I are paying over 25 years, they get it in their bank account today. The money is previously not in existence, and then poof, it is. I mean, not in existence. If it's made by a loan, where was it beforehand, right? It wasn't there, and now it's there. Here you go, poof, into existence, liquidity, right? It's on the books somewhere, like you're supposed to have it, but you don't have the $150,000, $200,000, $700,000, so you borrow it, right? Bank says, yeah, you look like a good, trustworthy person, and then boom, poof, right? All that money exists, and government gets their chunk, right? So it's just wild stuff. ArriveCan works by the same exploitation. You amortize theft over 25 years, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to see it, right? Scary, scary stuff. So wasteful spending. They need to raise taxes. We're not taxed enough. Are you kidding me? Holy smoke. Danielle Smith, let's talk. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful